Good morning and welcome to the Capitalgang. I am Oscar Semayamsoke.
But also, he mentored very many young journalists, some of whom are spread across the newsrooms in this country. But Oscar, let me just say that there's arrangements for those that want to pay the last tribute to him. The family and relatives have said that there shall be a church service to pray for the body of Risdale Casia on the 4th. Today, at 3 p.m. at St. James Cathedral in Ruharo. Therefore, the body will be leaving for his ancestral home in Rubaya, that is Kashari, for a vigil, and burial will take place tomorrow, which is Sunday, the 5th of January, and may the body of Risdale Casia rest in peace.
R.I.P. that's veteran journalist. Very sad news. In the studio, I have Katesh, Honorable Katesh Shumwe. You're most welcome to Gang.
Thank you very much, Oscar.
And Happy New Year to you too.
Happy New Year, and good to be back at the Gang after a while. I also want to extend condolences to Risdale. I studied with Risdale at Tingano High School from 1993 to 1996 before I went to Dare School. We were very close friends. We sat on the same desk together with many other colleagues. And it's very, very sad because he's been a very young professional. I've seen him through school. And interestingly, on the 28th of December, we had actually a class reunion.
Wow.
At in Mbarara. I missed it because of many commitments, but I was seeing the mood, the Risdale was full of life, and our class has remained together. So we are very sad, and we pray for the wife who survived and the children, and we condole with the entire journalist fraternity and the entire family, and pray that his soul rests in peace. And at least we have to remember him for very many stories that he did and the professionalism. So his legacy will be will remain.
Yes, very sad.
Yeah.
So far we have two gangsters in the studio. Before we delve into the topics we have for today, Derek, you're the journalist. So what's happening with these gang fights? and why can't police just stop them?
I've seen some people on Twitter after you posted our
topics,
artwork and topics. I've seen them being very sentimental about why we should discuss the gangsters on the Capitalgang, but because they have the word gang and we also gang, I think it's imperative that we put and shed some perspective. Now, Oscar, to the best of my understanding,
but you know, people complain about discussing gangs. If you look at what's happening in Haiti or these war-torn areas, RSF and all, in Sudan, you know, you mustn't allow these gangs to grow.
Yeah. For me, I feel people are being not very deep in their understanding of, for instance, these gangs that are sprouting or that have been here for some time, because they've
been here for some time.
Yeah, this gang of alien skin has been on the streets of Kampala, causing mayhem for some time. Just, I think, 3 weeks ago, they attacked a hospital and beat up patients, beat up askaris, and beat up doctors at Nsambia Hospital.
And they get away with it?
Of course, they were apprehended, I think. He was arrested, arraigned in court, and he was bailed. But hardly had he been bailed than he started even causing more mayhem and chaos. And that has been going on. I think they attacked the NUP head offices some time back. I think also about a month or so ago, and he went away with it. He has been fighting amongst his fellow artists now for close to 2 years since his emergence, and I know for sure that there are very many big shots within government, but also some politicians who have attached themselves to the name as one of their own, and one wonders why they are not calling him to order and his gang. But Oscar, what I wanted to say is there is a very big correlation between gangs sprouting in urban areas and governance in a country, but also security at large. When you look at countries that have very deep politics that go beyond just the politicians, the MPs and whatever, the politicians that control the entire state, gangs have been manifesting in those areas, but it tells about the brokenness of the society. You look at a state like Kenya, I mean, you look at South Sudan, you look at Sudan, the main Sudan. Look at South Africa, even in America, where you think that there is a lot of security and stuff. The gangs have been very perennial on their streets, causing a lot of mayhem, most of whom are always armed. Thankfully, ours are armed with pangas, machetes, and
I think
stones.
you're using the wrong word, thankfully.
Yeah, because the others are armed with real guns.
The English word is it could have been worse.
Of course. Yes. It could have been worse because the others are armed with guns, real firearms, and they go shooting anyone they find they have qualms with and stuff. And it shows the brokenness in society, the brokenness in governance, but also the infusion of the entertainment class into the active and real politics of the country, whereby now an artist will want a politician will want an artist on their rally, for them to bring out exactly what it is, but also to woo as many supporters as possible to some of their rallies. And it has been seen all through the joining of artists into the real politics, active politics, has not helped either, because then you're going to bring the architect that is in the arts world and try to fuse it into the politics of the country. It becomes very chaotic, that the gentlemen who wear suits now feel that sometime you can put off your suit and you wear a baseball and jeans and go on the streets with one of your own, an artist who is going to cause mayhem. These attacks are not very new to Uganda. We know that in the heydays of the sprouting of the big three, that was Bebe Cool, now leader of National Unity Platform, Bobby Wine, Robert Chagulanyi, and Chameleon.
But
they rode on.
Was it not marketing?
Yeah, for me, I feel they rode on chaos. They rode on that stiff, almost sometimes even physical competition to market the music of Uganda, but also to market themselves as people who were in this entertainment and breaking even.
They had a group.
All of them had groups.
They had a group together. I forget what is it. East Africa Foundation.
Yes. They each of them had group. They had their groups. East African Reggae Bashment Crew.
Yeah.
They had it in Kenya, and when they came back to Uganda, they had to spread and go solo. And as they went solo, each of them wanted to put their name out there, and through that they propelled the music of Uganda. At that time, we used to listen to rumba. Most of the music was coming from DRC and stuff like that.
So I don't know. My feeling is this
now,
is different.
And I'm trying to compare, because there are many people who are trying to confuse the two. That Alien Skin will attack Palazzo and get away with it because that is just their entertainment beat, and that's how entertainment people behave, and that's how they have been behaving. I feel this is very different. If an artist can attack a hospital, cause harm on doctors, patients, and askaris of the hospital, then it means a lot. It means this is really out of hand. In my view, under normal circumstances, there are people who shouldn't be on the streets right now. They should be somewhere in prison, answering to those very, very human rights abuses on people who are in hospital, who are already ailing, and you're causing mayhem. So
let's come here to Katesh.
So for me, as I summarize, I feel this is a political period, and in this period we are going to see a lot of these things happening, and to your surprise, Oscar, most of these people are going to get away with it, depending on which side of the aisle of politics they are inclined. Now, when you hear, I've seen many people saying how deeply rooted within the government system Alien Skin is, and that's why he will attack someone and beat them up at a gathering, and he will get away with it, and he will be attacked, and what police only does is to say we are warning, and yet there is property that has been
looking at a message here from Paul Banks on X, formerly Twitter. Says police said stand warned. Stand warned.
Imagine, just stand. Well, it beats my understanding.
is there a place for such gangs in Uganda?
There is absolutely.
And you're hearing Derek kind of alluding to that. If I say they support NRM, they'll get away with it.
First of all, I think this is an issue that we should be looked at from a criminal and security angle, not political angle, because we have had artists in this country aligned to different political parties. We have had rivalries and competition, but this is rivalry and competition gone too far. I think the red line has been crossed, because even when we had Bobi Wine and Bebe Cool and their rivalry, and we've seen this all through, it has never reached this point where you have people being, attacked. If it's true they attacked the hospital, I think for me that's a red line which should be condemned by everyone, because in the situation of lawlessness and gang rule, there is no one who is safe. They will smash your car and you will count your losses. So there should be no one to say that this is something that should be treated lightly. For me, police has to really come up and deal with this situation decisively, because the issue of saying, stand warned, when they start, even police cannot be safe in an era of lawlessness. We have seen it all over the world. They will attack a police station and overrun it and pick guns. It's just that in these attacks, perhaps you have not seen bullets flying, but it can easily escalate to a situation where people get hold of guns and the game will change from that point. So, for me, I think this is a matter that is very serious. It is also a matter that puts our security under question, because our economy, one of the biggest, things that have made our economy very attractive for investment is because of stable security compared to many countries around us. So if I'm an investor and I know that my property can be attacked because there is a gang in the backyard, I will not invest. So there has to be a decision where this red line that has been crossed is dealt with, because there are far-reaching implications of loss of life, loss of property, but also affecting the confidence in the economy. I think these artists can compete, they can have rivalry, but they don't need to go to be violent. And we have seen it. We have lady artists in this country. Don't they sing? Don't they have competition? How come we have not seen gangs being the ladies turning themselves into gangs? I have attended many shows of many young artists. It also goes to a point where the industry, which has been a flourishing industry since the old times of the Congolese music, which was dominant here, we had new artists coming up. It's been our pride as Uganda that we have quite a lot of entertainers coming up. Now, when it goes into violence, it actually spoils the industry and spoils the chances of many young people who may want to come up, because a young person who is coming up will start thinking, where do I align? If I align with, if I attend Paraso's show, the other gang might attack me. If I attack this one, the other one might attack me. So it actually divides the industry and affects the prospect of growth. So there has to be a decision. The minister and the government, people responsible, must deal with this decisively.
Okay.
And as we go into the polls, let us not start, darkening our politics with this kind of situation too early. We can have artists. I have had artists, even in my own constituency, including Alien Skin.
Oh.
He's been, he attended, he performed at Shema, so there was no problem. There are many artists who have come. We love the music. But when you go, you become violent, then even we start thinking, should I even associate with you? So we should not destroy our good music. We should not destroy our politics. 2025 needs to be a year of calm, even as we go into election year.
Welcome to Gang, Honorable Abdul Katonto.
Oscar, don't give me an impression that I've just walked in.
No. You came. You made a comment. I like the shirt. Nice shirt.
Well, thank you. Bought in winner.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think you don't know the people. For you, Alien Skin, Palazzo, those are names you've never heard of.
No, I do a lot of reading. I don't
they are not
their
novelists,
shows, but I read about them.
Yeah.
But let's say this, Oscar. Looking at this incident as an isolated one, we really not being realistic. Let us analyze the industry itself and whether it has been having these challenges or not. How did the radio die?
Fighting. It was an accident.
Killed. How there was this gentleman, one of the guys who used to play, I think, cricket, the one who was killed in Genoa by a boat or something like that. And then the so-called gangs against the other. We've seen this. And then the industry has another challenge. We seem to have accepted that drugs and alcohol are a way of life of this particular industry and its actors as a country.
Drugs?
Yes. We know it. We know those who smoke the damn thing. they are known. And don't think that these people you see doing all these sort of things are just ordinary people waiting just to fight. They are motivated by other things. Of course, there is money, but many of them are high on drugs. Many of them are high on alcohol. So it is purely alcohol and drug abuse. And we need to help our younger people. You can be successful and you can manage that success. Some of them, they are having challenges of managing the fame and the success. So they end up resorting to some of those not good practices. Unfortunately now, Oscar, we now have decided to mix it up with politics. The other one were accepted. They can take the drugs and dress on the stage, and we laugh, and you're happy, and you pay to go and watch. And you get amused and talk about it in your social clubs and so on. Now, it is reached an extent where we are seeing organized gangs. Some time back in my usual official travels, Commonwealth, I went to Jamaica, Kingston actually. There are places which you can't go. They have been captured by a certain group, and many of them are actually artist commanded. You can't go there. Whether it is during day, obviously night it is totally out. Even police cannot go there because they are armed, and it's only their groups that go there. By the time you realize you've grown into such cultures and levels that it doesn't look good. Go to countries like Haiti. You have gangs all over. And why? Drugs, alcohol, and criminality. And once you mix all of them, what do you expect? But the so-called, I am not so much into this. I don't want to advise my brother Katesh to get so much excited by inviting some of these guys. you get, they can come and entertain you and so on, but don't get involved on hiring. So this is my group and so on, because you see, once you do that, you involve them now in political rivalries. So they graduate from their industry rivalries of Baby Cool, Bobby Wine, and who's the other one in the US? Chameleon, and so on. The artist industry competition and rivalries. And now you get them involved in political rivalries. Yet you still have the challenges they are having of drug taking, of alcohol abuse. What do you expect? So it's not as easy as the police coming in and so on. It's a big society problem.
Who is the one that said on Honorable Mpuga's function that now we are similar? Who was that?
Alien skin.
Aliens. You see now what happens, and I've seen this politician and laugh. There is a group allied now to the Bobby Wine group. They have their own groups and so on. Now there is another one of Baby Cool and blah, blah, blah. Now you have this one of Kenzo and so on and so. So you are having artists who have now gone into purely politics. And now you are going to volatile times. And I'll give you an example. You remember when Baby Cool, because I don't attend those shows, I'm sorry. I'm not a big fan, though I love music. There was someone at some concert which was in Kololo. I think it was by Baby Cool. And you remember how they were throwing bottles? Yes? You remember very well? The fans went and they started throwing bottles. Literally stop and so on. Now, from what I read yesterday, is like when Alien Skinny was coming, he anticipated a group to do the same, of throwing bottles. So he came prepared to fight back. That's why you could see that if you followed that story well, they came and showed the force before he reached the stage. Then they tried to look where a bottle would come from. Either there was some or two bottles came, and all of a sudden there was an attack in that place. So, politicians, we should divorce ourselves from this sort of thing. It doesn't go well. Let these young men and women, they're making some money. We allow them to grow, make some money. There are many young people who want entertainment. They will pay to go and watch them and so on. We don't have to get them involved in our politics, because our politics has got its own dynamics, and sometimes people don't have those strong shock absorbers, Oscar. They are taken up and they will do anything they can, hire anybody to win an election, and that would be very, very disastrous. Yeah. It's not very good, but it's not yet too late. I think we can manage it.
The Karamaji on X, formerly Twitter, says stop the gangs now. Started social media insults and intimidation, graduated to street brawls. Now we are attacking homes and destroying property, and a lot more. Agatha Tuhaire in the studio, you're most welcome to Gang. Agatha, this thing of the gangs, but it's a question of misrule. Abdu here says don't look at it in isolation. But over the last 2 days on our village forum, Chigo Village Forum, people are annoyed about noise. Just in a small area, the noise generated.
In Chigo now?
Pardon? No.
There are bars in Chigo as well?
Well, there's some from a bars, there's some from churches. It's just incredible. And I think, isn't that misrule?
No,
isn't that the whole package?
It's a freedom.
What freedom?
Don't ever ask
what
that
freedom
question.
is that?
So freedom,
now
human rights.
Human rights? Your human rights to have
that's what they say.
Loudspeakers on top of your roof?
That's what they say.
Honorable Katuntu, you are our MP. It's a question of misrule everywhere.
Misrule, dysfunctionality, lawlessness.
Lawlessness, actually, that's a good word.
Human rights.
And it's true, it shouldn't be looked at in isolation. It should be looked at in our law enforcement. You know, the selectiveness in our law enforcement is going to catch up in every way. You've seen these issues about the Bob Wine camp. people being in jail for years because of being in possession of military whatever, berets and whatever.
Red beret. Yeah.
Now you have people that go on stage in camouflage, and they are not touched because these are and it started in 2021, in 2020 towards the elections, where one musician who is now a politician, whose group is full of musicians, was being stopped from going anywhere, having any rallies. Another musician, or more, those that aligned to President Museveni, like Bebeku, were having processions. This other one, Catherine Kusasa, were having. So people started to see.
Is that not one the presidential advisor?
But she's a musician. And that's what I found out saying about divorcing the music. Because the music industry in itself has a lot of rivalries world over. You heard about the shootings of the notorious B.I.G.s, the Tupacs, and all that. Now, here you have that because even before they entered into politics, I think you guys.
Some of us we are gen old, so
I think you would
when
know.
you say
I thought you would know
B.I.G.,
Tupac, B.I.G. because
you
and Tupac. You are the old people because those guys are old guys.
We do.
Oh, okay. Abdul, you know that?
Of course.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So there are musicians in the US that have been shot more than that now, but also the drug abuse in the music industry. Many have died of overdoses, more than here in Uganda and somewhere else. You are seeing the addiction of chameleon that they are talking about. Even here, in the 2000s, we had only 3 musicians. Others, no one knew them if they were there. Chameleon, Bebeku, Bobby Wine. They were fighting all the time. They were not yet in politics. So there's already that rivalry, that competition. Now,
Derek gave that background.
So you are expecting the politics, the law enforcement, to be the one to step in. But now you have the politics being the ones pitting them against one another.
Utilizing them.
Exactly. If you are Kenzo and you are on President Museveni's side and NRM, you get away with everything.
But so Kenzo is a husband to a politician, a minister.
So is Bebe Cool. All that comes in. But I will still put it down to the lawlessness. Alien Skin has gotten away with so many things. No one is touching him. Let Bobby Wine or any musician connected, associated with Bobby Wine do something. They will be in jail forever. You have Bobby Young who is still in jail for all this while. So I think I remember my professor friend from Makerere one day was invited to speak about the potential oil curse in this country. And he said, you guys, there's no oil curse. What is there in this country is a governance curse. The misrule you're talking about, the lawlessness, that we don't have people that are keeping law and order. We have people that have become gods. They buy the security. Law enforcement is bought. It's a commodity now. If I am a musician, I can go and ask security to take away a person I don't like. If I am a musician aligned to a certain big group, I'm going to be untouchable. And it's not just musicians. We have seen with politicians, with civil society actors, that some people will be picked over an offense and others will be left to go scot-free over an even bigger offense. Some people will be given bail, others will be kept in jail for forever without bail over a smaller offense than the one that has been given bail. Because the offense, the violence that Alien Skin was involved in Zambia, it was a big issue. It was an issue that someone should, there should be some, you have to have these punitive measures that other people will not continue doing the same thing.
But Oscar, for me,
he's I see people have posted already of I think he's Alien Skin in military wares.
Well, first of all, I just want to say that it's wishful thinking that we can divorce artists from entertainment or participating in campaigns or mobilization. World over, we have seen it. We've just had the US elections. We saw how artists were involved, in moving crowds, in singing. So you cannot, because when you are mobilizing, especially the youth, the entertainment is part of the process. The issue here should be, we should not mix criminality with politics. For me, I do not
we should deal with criminality.
We should deal with criminality because these are young people. There are people who look up to them. There are people who are coming. They want to see. They aspire to be baby wines and by the way, there is prosperity in the music. Some of these young people have actually made it through music. So as an industry, it's an industry that needs to be supported. I think this is time for people. I've seen people like Captain Mike Mkura trying to mentor some of these young people over the years. It is time for us to put an effort to work and separate criminality from anything else, but also try to encourage these people to manage success, because it's also an issue of, I think it's Honorable Katuntu said it, failing to manage success. Says you become a big artist and suddenly you think that you are bigger than anyone else because you speak so and so. I think that is something that we need to do.
Okay. Yes,
Oscar,
just a quick one on I want us to move away from that.
Yeah, Oscar, I think what Honorable Katesh is saying is very, very important, but he's distorting some facts. We've seen so many times many artists making a pilgrimage and pilgrimages to Gulu to go and meet Afande Salim Saleh.
Didn't he say the other day that now he's letting them go?
I know he has let them go, but I think he has let go of them at a very wrong time when they need him more. Because I expect that when he meets them, he gives them the word of counsel of saying, okay, even when you're connected to me or you're connected to the government in power, you have no right of causing mayhem and chaos in the public. And I would expect that people like Honorable Katesh who are connected to some of these artists who have called them to their rallies, call these people out and say, okay, now that you are in our camps, we expect that you behave in a mature way. Because alien skill.
We don't have camps. For me, for example, I attended a show because I love the music.
Yes.
I attended the show in Serena.
Derek, the question to you is, would Bobby Wine go to Gulu to see
that's
General Saleh?
That's a very far-fetched thought, even if you got
but
it
you
close
see,
to...
Katesh,
even
you still get it wrong, in my view.
Yeah.
As long as the industry is becoming a partisan and you encourage it, I have this artist, he's mine, he's for my cause and he has to promote me.
Yes.
Then you have another artist doing the same. There is no you are going to differentiate between the rival of this artist and you principal's rivalries.
You remember the time
You're going
when...
to mix them up. And I'm
remember
telling
when
you,
the
these are
time...
young people.
Yes.
These are people, as we all know, who are so vulnerable, especially on drugs and alcohol. You're going to cause us problems.
You remember that time when President Museveni hired all artists, most of the artists, to sing for him the Tuboganawe song? I think that was towards the 2016 general elections. That camp remained intact the way it was, just a few have dropped off. But those people...
at that time, the President Museveni's camp was trying to respond to the Bobby Wine's camp because the opposition...
Bobby Wine wasn't here.
No, Tubonga now
Yes.
came in
2021,
2016.
No, 2016. Bobby Wine wasn't here.
But at least there was a little bit of response. And no, not the response. That was the beginning, actually, of the political,
politicians'
music
yes,
coming in and of this era, because the politics.
We had another rap before.
Another
for 2016. Yeah.
2011.
But,
the one hit wonder.
So just moving on, Abdul. So what do you predict for this? I mean, 2025 is going to be an election year, really.
Yes.
And at some point, we'll invite the Electoral Commission to give us their roadmaps and so on and so forth. But what are your predictions here in the first week of January?
Predictions about what?
How the election will be conducted, how campaigns
Is
will
it
be conducted.
talk about elections? No.
We're talking about 2025, seeing what we see ahead.
No, I think just brace yourself. We are going into some very interesting times. That one, please, if you don't have thick skin, you're going to have a little bit of shocks. Yeah, the difficult times are just ahead. And this is just the beginning. It's just an indicator and so on. You wait when what we call political temperatures rise, the adrenaline rising, political one, of course, you're going to see a little bit of this. So we need to find a way of managing it. And today, I see, I think it started around 2011. The young people getting so much active in the politics. Today, they have been a little, the last 2 years, they have not been all that very active. This year, you're going to have so many young people now getting active. And once they do that, because they are devils.
What do you mean by getting active?
Oh, you are now going to see them, all of them, dressing politically with all these politicians' T-shirts and garments all over the place. They are going to get involved in musical shows, entertainment. The politicians are going to organize groups, youth groups, against another youth group and so on. So, and if you are a strategist and you are a national security strategist, that's what you should be looking at. And if you are religious leaders talking to politicians, I only guess, I only hope they listen to religious leaders. You need to tell them, let our youth not get so much involved in the violence, or let our youth not get, because they must get involved in the politics. That one is for sure. But you have not seen them, for example, at a border stage, now doing the active politics. 3 months down the road today, you're going to see them. All of them, these borders. They'll be riding all over, accompanying politicians here and there. You're going to have terrible talk shows like this one, which are going to be political. All of them listening to and getting excited. You're going to have musical shows, which are going to turn out political. And now if you have two groups as fans, chances that they may clash are also high. So as managers of this country, we now need to see how do we calm down the situation. We can have very fierce, strong competition without degenerating into violence. Because let me tell you, nobody eventually benefits from violence. A country that grows the culture of violence, especially in elections, it will be barring people. And I don't think anybody should be proud. So-and-so was killed in this, so-and-so was killed in this. So my view is we need, as a country, to get ready for it. And if we don't, we will be in trouble. But caution to the politicians. Please don't use our younger people.
Katesh, you know the politics, you people in the NRM, you are bloody. Your primaries are life-threatening sometimes.
Well, first of all, we are in an era of information. So globally, politics have changed because people have information, they see what is happening elsewhere. It is very easy for violence to escalate very quickly, especially if it is sponsored or instigated by actors. But it is also easy to calm down tensions because you can communicate. If you are a leader and you communicate a peaceful message, it will reach very many people. So for me, I am a bit optimistic that we will not have so much chaos in our primaries as NRM. What I know is that the contestations will be very heavy, and anyone who attempts to cheat.
What has given you that optimism?
Because I saw, for instance, recently we had very, very tough by-election in Kisoro, and there was no violence, but the contestations were very heavy, and people had to. People contested the outcome of the primaries, and they went into the finals, and they served themselves justice. So it does not mean that all the time when there are disagreements.
The service came in the finals.
In the finals.
But not in the primary.
In the primary. So you can actually go through these tensions, but remain focused on the end objective. And at the end of the day, justice will be served. I know that people should be careful, especially in our primaries, not to cheat, because people have information. People will take pictures of what is happening, and once that information goes out, then people will be motivated to actually deliver justice at some point. So for me, I think that political disagreements, tension should not result into violence. And the duty of keeping law and order is with police. Police should not be partisan. They should stay on course, and all of us should behave according to the rules. I do not think that it is, I agree with Honorable Katuntu. We should not be barring people because we have gone through elections. So it's a challenge on security, and for me, I think, even for my own party, sometimes we should have the confidence that we can mobilize and win an election without actually having this. Sometimes police, some officers go overboard, thinking that you are trying to help a party, but sometimes you make it worse. I remember in the last elections, situations where we had to come in and say, no, we don't need all this so much deployment because so and so is coming. Let us just mobilize people, and the situation passed. I had the presidential candidates who came in my constituency. There was no single tear gas. So it is a challenge on us as a party. We must mobilize ourselves, talk to the people, and have peaceful elections. We are in charge. NRM is the one in power. Any violence will be attributed to NRM as a party, as people in government. So if we have a violent election, it's not something to be proud of. And so we have to make sure that as the government, as a ruling party, we preside over a peaceful election.
But for you, Katesh, yes, people are attacking you in midterm. They did not even wait for 2025. And they are from your own party.
And I kept quiet. And what has happened? Most of them went silent. So I have been telling people that when you are in leadership, you have the responsibility to actually withdraw and take and be calm. We have been in parliament. We have been attacked. There are people who have been attacking. And some of our supporters would say, but why don't you allow us to punish them? Or why don't you go to police, open a case and lock up this person? And I kept telling people, no, leave the people. They can abuse, they can say all sorts of things, but time will come when they do a self-reflection and they withdraw. And I have seen it in my own constituency. I have seen people, you abuse and I keep quiet until you actually give up. So sometimes you don't have to react.
Yes,
if we are
what
leaders,
Abdul said, have a thick skin.
Yes, you must have a thick skin to go through it and remain calm. At the end of the day, life goes on. But if you react, every reaction invites another reaction. It is always not good to escalate tensions. When you escalate, there will be a counter. And that is how things become a problem. It becomes a culture of, revenge, attacks, and violence, and that's not good for our country.
Okay. Agatha, do you think Katesh's optimism about the upcoming election and the campaign period is well-grounded, or you worry?
Everyone can be optimistic. That one is not in anyone's control. But what's being done? What's what is he basing that optimism on? Is there anything being done by the NRM government in which he's a leader?
Yes, we are digitating our register to make sure that we have at least everyone on the register.
Was that not happening before?
It didn't happen. We didn't have a register last time.
You see,
that's why
we
said that everybody should vote.
You see, what happens is that
You have some sort of register.
No, it's fake.
I think the thing, Oscar, is going back to what we said. Can we enforce the law? Can we at least have a political will to enforce the law? Can we all appreciate the implications of leading this country down this route of lawlessness? Because what's happening is that Katesh might say this, but there are people in NRM that are untouchable, that we have seen during these elections and what they do. They are historicals, they are rich, they are powerful. Now, the thing is that, and the tragedy of this country is that we have now many that are powerful, that consider themselves powerful. They beat up people, get away with it. They have rigged the elections before, gotten away with it. They have gotten involved in election bribery and whatever, which is prohibited by law, gotten away with it. Because it has become okay. It is a norm. It is a practice. Now, for Katesh to be optimistic right now, when we don't see anything that has changed on the ground, for people to have any sort of confidence in that process. And the question we always ask ourselves when after the NRM elections, if they can preside over a messy internal election like that, but they are still the ones we are trusting to preside over an election for the entire country. I would never be optimistic. Anyone optimistic is either naive or is just lying to us here. It's a thing that we need to see proper mechanisms. We need to see people held accountable. It does not happen. People are killed during elections and these deaths are not investigated. No one is held accountable. And the thing about impunity, when people keep getting away with crimes and these vices that we see, there is no incentive for them to stop. And we have to have a government that puts that incentive. The NRM government has always, before even it became NRM, when it was just a movement system, has always had its favorites. There's always a Biana, and so there are people they always prefer. I know how they went around the country in the last election, trying to make sure the people who voted against the age limit do not get the NRM flag. So you already have those people that are the favorites of the system, that they will do whatever it takes to protect them. But also, whatever they do, they will get away with it. And the camps, like they said, the other rival people and their supporters, that's how violence starts. That's how violence is bred. That's how violence has been bred in this country for this long. Because it has become normal that every election, people will die, people will be injured, people will be in jail. It's like a matter of life and death. It doesn't matter what election it is. Look at what happened in Kayunga the other day, LC5 by-election. Look at even just the smallest election. You could think it's only the election of President Museveni that we have seen as, a matter of he has to stay. But the NRM government will have that much investment in every election. And the investment will be taking there the military, the way we have militarized these elections, the way the police has no control over what happens there. And we think that's normal. So I am not optimistic.
You are not optimistic. Yeah. Let's stop for a quick break, and then after the break, we shall still continue looking forward at what will happen during the election campaigns. Welcome back from the break. This is the Capitalgang. We are looking at 2025, particularly right now on elections coming up in beginning of 2026. Optimistic, Derek Wandera, as Katesh was optimistic.
Honorable Katesh is right to be optimistic because he has to create some kind of optimism among his own supporters. But reality is actually very different. You look at elections from say 2005, 2006, violent, 2011 violent, 2016 more violent, and 2021 most violent. And I'm actually looking at the next year, the next year's election being even more violent, because there are so many factors that will define the next election, and the factors are, if the 20 let's even look at the 1996 election in and of itself, and compare it with the most recent 2021. You have a President Museveni who is very strong, very charismatic, moving across the country, talking to people and convincing them about his manifesto, and 2021 where he can hardly move to 2 districts on one day. He can hardly cover the entire country. He only has regional meetings, sitting down with 100 or 2 or so leaders of NRM, telling them, go and tell my people this and that. That's the President Museveni who is going to come and try to use all mechanisms to make sure that he's voted, because all odds are against him in terms of age, in terms of physicality, but also in terms of dispensation of his message, his messaging. If you've been talking about PDM, if you've been talking about Operation Wealth Creation, the Youth Livelihood Fund, the Women Fund, and all that, now the country is going to be asking how different, if you brought another project, will it impact on especially the per capita income, but also just the common Ugandan down there in the villages. So failure, and in absence of any of the new strategies, you have to implement combative measures to make sure that you scare as many people away from voting on the last day as possible, but also make sure that your opponent is slowed down as much as possible. Slowing them down in terms of how, of course, if you have a charismatic and very youthful Bobi Wine on the ballot, you know that he is going to manage even to move to 4 districts and hold over 8 rallies in a day, and he will still wake up tomorrow as though he didn't do anything. I covered the last election, and one of the stories I did was just how Bobi Wine arranges his election day, like a day of campaign, how he carries out campaigns every day. And it was interesting when pictures of him beginning in a gym and punching the air very early in the morning, wearing like a boxer. Those would be certainly pictures that can scare President Museveni, who is in his 80s. He would hardly lift his hand to punch the air. So
really,
when
in the last election, I don't know if you saw.
It is only just being physical.
For me,
Yeah.
I feel it doesn't.
But
just
in the last election campaign, it is President Museveni who did. I don't know. Were they 40 sit-ups?
No, those press-ups were during the lockdown. They weren't during the campaigns.
Yeah.
So it doesn't. It's not actually. It's not only about the physicals, but you know the physical elements. The physical element of a candidate help them to reach as many people as possible in the country, to go and talk to them. Now, it will be very hard for you if you cannot move to the 120-something districts that in Uganda, and you only move to 24, and the other one has covered and canvassed the entire country. It will be very hard. So, with all those odds against President Museveni, if you can slow down Bobi Wine to make sure that he doesn't move to as many districts as possible, it's a plus for him. And how does that happen? There's certainly going to be violence. You're going to see more people being tear gassed. You're going to see many people having their limbs cut off because of these tear gas canisters. But also even bullets entering people's bodies like we saw them last time. So optimism is something that you can just create as an aula or just as an illusion in your brain. But the real sense of elections, it's going to be very violent.
If police were to engage such what Agatha and Derek are saying, particularly, if we were to use such method to stop criminality, we would be very, very far ahead, Abdul.
I don't think the issue is the police, really. You people, you stretch a little bit too far. It's about the politicians, period. It's about us. As long as you are irresponsible, these things will happen. Then the police will start to continue running around. Because, you see, we don't have enough police to police literally every Ugandan, to be in each and every village, make sure everything is calm. By the time they come to a village called Idudi, things have already happened, and they are fire brigading. So it's about preparing our nation, preparing countrymen. I say, look here, elections is a civic exercise. We go into it to choose our leaders, and winning is okay, but everybody going to an election psychologically should be prepared that he can lose. Never go into an election thinking you are going to win. Go into an election with a possibility of losing. And once you lose graciously, I mean, it does not hang over you. Life must go on. But secondly, we also have job seekers. And to them, it's life and death.
Yeah, that one is not preparing to lose.
Yeah, because you see, they have nothing to do outside politics, outside these offices. And doesn't matter whether at parliamentary level, district level, sub-county level, because now we have elections up to the grassroots, a village or LC1. So it's about the political class. The political class to realize that election is, first of all, is an exercise about how we are going to manage our society, not for you looking for jobs. So that you must kill somebody, you must hire goons, you must sell everything you have to
join politics.
To join politics and win, and therefore recoup. It also has its own problems, because once you've lost $1 billion shillings and you're a member of parliament, you reach there and that money maybe is not there. Then you start looking for other ways of getting that money. Then with all the attendant, risks coming and corruption. So my view is this culture, political culture, we need a paradigm shift. We need to change. The mindset must. And it's a process. It's not going to change like a tomorrow one. Yeah. But you need to start on it. But what are we doing? You get your little kids in primary, they want to be prefects. You are giving them money to buy biscuits and sweets and so on. And you are not preparing them as a leader, but you are really buying positions for them. So they grow up knowing you must, because you've seen you are the one managing schools, we've
been trying to improve in that.
I congratulate you if you are trying to improve, but the situation is not good throughout the country, not in a particular school, but throughout the country. So and it is going on and on. So the country has a little bit of an ailment. It's not malignant cancer. It's not fatal, but we can treat it. We can treat it. So by the time you involve the army, and because you see, when you look at the constitution, it says the army, the armed forces are supposed to be subordinate to civilian authority. Now the civilian authority is that which orders the army to do all sorts of things, because I don't believe that our law and this one I respect, of course. I disagree with many people who are thinking of electoral reforms, legal electoral reforms. The issue is what we have. How has it been implemented? Because there is no law today which allows you to use violence.
And police is the biggest implementer of
And
that
police
law.
is the biggest, of course,
So you
implementer.
see, you go back to you saying the problem is not police, but politicians.
Because we order them. And we bribe them.
That's the problem. There's
Yeah.
no law that says the police should be ordered by a politician.
Yes.
We should be.
No, there is a law.
I mean,
There's a law which says don't.
There's a law that gives them the mandate.
The mandate,
to keep
yes.
law and order.
Yes.
To secure citizens and property. They should not wait to get order from every Tom, Dick, and Harry. And that's the problem in this country.
Even the electoral commission
order
is
is not just from one person. The orders are from the president. They are from the prime minister. They are from a powerful MP. They are from a speaker. They are from. We have a lawless country that everyone thinks they have the power to take away the power of the laws that is given to these enforcers.
Let me give you as a practicing politician. When you look at the law, the mandate to organize the electoral process by law, by constitution, is to the electoral commission. Tell me, haven't we had more often than not that polling stations have been taken over by people who are not even officers of the electoral commission, literally managing them? So the law is already there to protect the electoral commission to perform its independent function. We even went to the most ridiculous thing, the most ridiculous, to say we need to change the name of the electoral commission. It used to be called Uganda Electoral Commission. Then we said independent, to remind them daily that actually you are what? You are independent. And yet you find an RDC. These days, I am now taught to the politician, listen to me. The so-called assistant RDCs that have been appointed, they are now
assistants to the deputy.
Assistants to the deputy. They are posted like 4 or 5 over in every district. They are now being engaged to do the manipulation of these electoral processes and so on, recruitment and so on, blah, blah. So you need to watch out. Once you have that sort of interference, then forget about the electoral commission being an independent electoral commission. And once you have that partisan illegal activity, I am telling you, it is a recipe for disaster and for violence.
Yeah, closing out the topic, looking at elections 2025.
First of all,
you people in NRM, at some point you start fighting for your life as well, because you have 2 big elections.
You know,
the primary and the final.
it is very easy to focus on NRM, but you know, first of all the parties will be responsible for selecting flag bearers. So the first challenge will be for parties on how they manage their internal democracies to come up with flag bearers and make sure that that process is not laced with extreme, contestations. So you might be thinking about NRM, but even NUP must select flag bearers, and we know that in the last elections, literally all the parties had problems. I know one party which is a major party in my constituency, they went and installed someone, and the other party members crossed and joined NRM. So it's a challenge for the parties on internal democracy, number one. Number two, in this era, if any party manipulates the process of flag bearers, getting flag bearers, the guarantee is that there will be independents who will come up and justice will be served at the end. And we have seen, and I have a lot of trust in the Electoral Commission, because the example I've given is Kisoro, which has just come out of by elections.
You have a lot of trust in the NRM Electoral Commission.
No, I've said, I don't, Oscar, you are not, Honorable Katun, to not be like Semuju. I know we are missing him.
But I didn't, I was asking.
No, whichever party mishandles their internal processes in selecting flag bearers, the guarantee is clear. There will be independence, and at the end of the day, you will
And the
find
independents might
you will
catch up
find
with
that
them.
the independents will catch up at the end, because we have seen it happen. That's why you see sometimes even the president is very soft on independence. You know, there is especially those who are NRM leaning, because he knows the challenges we had. So, other than that, the police and the security must focus on their role of law and order, ensuring justice. But the bigger responsibility, like Honorable Katuntu has said, is on the individuals who are participating. If they have set up a campaign schedule rally that you are here up to 4, and from 4 there is so and so, and then for you at 4 you are defiant. Those are some of the things that also actually put security, our security services, in a trouble, because they are trying to enforce, and some of the politicians just want to defy. So it is a responsibility not only for police, but also for individuals, that if you cause violence, you don't want to follow the rules, then you will have a chaotic elections. Everybody must play ball. You know.
You also need to, I think Sagasa was talking about it, about selective application of the implementation of the law.
Yes, for example, in the last elections, there were complaints about RDCs. And I think it came out even in Parliament. You remember when RDCs were interfering in Women's Day celebrations. You remember we had that problem. And the directive was issued. If you are an RDC, why do you have to storm a radio station to stop someone who is mobilizing because he's not in NRM? Let the politicking be left to us. Don't get involved.
Switching off radio shows and
they don't get
because you actually end up giving a bad. Some of the so-called directives are determined to think that you are pleasing. I know some of the RDCs who have been dropped because they went overboard. You think that you are trying to please the leaders, but you are actually breaking the law. And we must know that nowadays we have seen in the recent times all these individual sanctions and pressure on people. At the end of the day, you have to be accountable. So for me, my call is on the politicians. We must be civil, but also security. Just don't get involved in where you don't need to. Maintain a line of enforcing the law. And for us, if we are in a political game, let's play it. And the winner will come out.
Okay, staying with you on the microphone, Katesh, since you've been in that fiscal world, the governor's, Bank of Uganda governor's message managing Uganda's economy in 2024 and beyond concludes by saying there's a positive outlook. The strategic delivery of BOU's policy mandate in 2024 has strengthened the economy's foundations, from maintaining one of Africa's lowest inflation rates to achieving 4th place in the ABSA Africa financial markets. Continues that banking sectors has improved health, expanding digital services, reached 65% of adults, and so on. And says 2025, a robust monetary framework and modernizing financial systems position Uganda will modernizing the financial systems position Uganda well to face it's been positioned well to face global challenges while advancing domestic prosperity. So a very positive outlook, something that Moses Yaranga could have written very, very well playing with these figures. You agree that this is a very positive outlook, Katesh?
I agree, because the indicators are there for everyone to see. We have had chaos in the currency depreciation around the whole continent. Those of you who have traveled, including my brother here, who is widely traveled, Honorable Katuntu, you know that our currency has been stable in the last 10 years. I think it has experienced the lowest depreciation, averaging around 32 or something % on comparable economies, especially on the continent. And so in terms of currency We have had a stable currency. There are countries where you can go and you can't find dollars. If you talk to the investors, they will tell you that this is a place where, you know, the economy in terms of the currency has done very well, even compared to even our immediate neighbors. Number two, if you look at inflation, the sub-Saharan average inflation is around 3.6%. And no. In terms, I mean growth. Growth, we have experienced around 6.1% in the last financial year, compared to 5.3, which was in the previous financial year, 22-23. And you compare that to the sub-Saharan average of 3.6%, you can see that we have done very well in terms of growth. Inflation contained at 3.2, below the target of 5, and the annual headline has been at 2.9. So in terms of indicators, our economy has done well. Financial, fiscal consolidation, digitization, we have seen more and more people actually getting into the banking sector, but also in the mobile. Apparently, in the last financial year, we have about 253 trillion transactions through the mobile money. So there is a lot of optimism that in the coming year, we will have, we shall continue to have a very stable economy. But there are still challenges, which when we are talking about these reports, people don't talk about. Issues of budget implementation, issues of performance, issues of the loans that we have taken on and they have not yet. We started paying interest, but we have not utilized it. So the growth actually could be bigger than where it is if we were able to deal with some of the incompetencies around implementation. And I think that's beyond the macroeconomic indicators we are looking at. We want to see more intention in terms of timely implementation of projects, value for money, and being serious. I mean, if we can achieve this growth, but then you look at our development plan implementation in terms of performance, not being able to meet its target. What if we became a little bit more serious? We cut down on red tape, we cut down on man hours lost due to potholes in the city, and all these problems. Then the growth could actually reach double digit. So I am optimistic. I hope that the political contestations we are going in will not come in the way of the economy. We must make sure that we guard against that, because investors will be watching to see, are we going to have a stable election? Is the future safe? And that will be a factor in decision making, whether we have more investments or not. So
okay,
I think that's what I can
pause for now. Agatha, you looked at Katesh strangely. When he said cut the red tape.
I liked the fact that
fix
on this point he was
implement.
He was honest.
Yeah. There are some points on which he's not honest.
Yeah.
Some points he's not honest.
No. When you are saying you're optimistic that the election won't be violent or will be free and fair, you are dishonest. It's not optimism, it's dishonesty. So the growth or performance of Uganda's economy has always been very glittering. And we have always wondered, where do these economists get their figures from? Because now, for an ordinary person, Oscar, that struggles to take a child to school, should we go into school dropout rates in this country? That struggles to take their child to hospital, No, that goes to public hospitals and doesn't find medicine and doesn't find a doctor. How do you convince them that Uganda is one of the fastest growing economies, that we are growing at 6% and all that? I also like that he mentioned the red tapes and whatever. So it might be true that Uganda is growing at that rate. It might be true that we have grown our foreign direct investment, that we have grown in terms of all these things, but how is it shared among the population? What percentage is benefiting from this growth? How are you making sure that this money, that the country benefits, if you are letting people steal in billions? And there's no problem with that, because we will go back to, I saw you guys on the last Saturday of the year, the biggest topic was the Parliament exhibition that we did. So we will go to things that it's not just the Parliament exhibition. I think the only thing the Parliament exhibition did was really to demonstrate the gravity. But we have known that corruption is endemic here and no one fights it. And the IGGs, from all the IGGs that have been around, I think the era I might not know well enough is the era of the first IGG, Augustine Ruzindana. But these other women, they come and say, our hands are what? Are tied. They have said it so many times. They cry about a budget, they cry about political interference, but also sometimes this political interference is not even in the back. The president shut down Betty Kamya and said, no, you are not going to do any lifestyle audits. I don't want people to invest the money they steal abroad. They should invest it here. Now, if you are leaving hemorrhage like that of the financial, of the public resources, how are you going to claim growth? Because this growth is not, that's why Kateshi talked about the hours spent in potholes. Talk about also the money, actually, in terms of how many people, how much people have to repair cars and whatever, shock absorbers and all. So if we are growing that fast, how can we have a city that has potholes for so many years and they are not being fixed? We also need to talk about the debt in this country, like the public debt. It's now over 70 trillion Uganda shillings. I think by now the debt to GDP ratio is like 55%. Still manageable apparently. So there are all those things that even when we are borrowing this money, it is stolen. When we are borrowing this money, there are issues that this money is actually not used. What is that term? You are the economist. Where we are paying.
You said it. You pay interest for money, unutilized money.
You are not using it. It is seated because you have so many inefficiencies in even procurements. You have procurements where you have people that come to work on these social services and they are not even qualified.
Okay, I get that.
So there's no growth.
In short, yours is not a positive outlook.
No, it is not. It is not.
Let's stop for a quick break and we'll come here to Abdu, who's been making copious notes. Welcome back from the break. This is the Capitalgang discussing BOU Governor's report ending with a positive outlook. Abdu, do you agree with a positive outlook as well?
Well, let's just talk simple economics.
And I'll pose a question here for someone on X, Norman Magembe. So since the economy is doing well, where are the jobs? Please, Katesh, find me a job in this very good economy.
One, I think, first of all, the governor was so much concerned with economic growth. And what is economic growth? Economic growth, I just want to speak in a little. It is quantitative. You are talking about the production of goods and services. Once they rise, then in the economy said there is economic growth. And now, that's where all these figures come in. they start looking at the sectors. Say this particular this particular sector, how has it performed this year? They say the production of this, we've grown up by this, we've grown up by this, gold, we've grown up by this, agriculture, we've grown up by this. That is what we call economic growth. And it's so narrow. It is pure about the quantity of services and goods being produced by a particular economy. And over the years, Uganda has had that growth. And you don't mistake. And that's why, Oscar, people look at the figures, then they doubt. No, there is economic growth. And those figures, most cases, they are actually correct. However, does that translate into economic development? Because now economic development goes beyond the growth. You now look at what we call quantitative, including these things Agatha is talking about, the quantitative growth of the citizens benefiting from the growth. And that's when we start looking at now, okay, how has the country benefited? How have the citizens, are they off now today than they were yesterday? And is the growth rate commensurate to what is growing, and then the benefits to the citizens? And if we don't differentiate that, then we make a big mistake in our analysis, Oscar. Because one, you'll wake up today, and there have been more vehicles on the roads, by the way. And that's growth.
And more borders.
Too many, and that's growth. But let us look at the quality of life of this either border rider or the border passenger. What is the quality of life he's living today? Can he afford A, B, C, D? Can he afford the convenience of moving on this road where he's being ridden on a border but without being hit into a pothole? Can he benefit from the road without staying 4 hours in the traffic? Or once you have too many vehicles, doesn't matter whether it is taking 3 or 4 hours on a distance which you have taken 30 minutes. And so when there's growth, you can see that there are so many vehicles. I try to explain this really in a layman's thinking so that we don't mix up the two. So if you are planning and you say, okay, we have a country that has grown, how do we get the increased production to benefit our people? How do we plan it? Then you invest. How do you invest? You invest now in areas which are concerned to the citizens. It's no use of putting up a hospital. But when you go there, instead of having 5 nurses, you have 1. Maybe to get the good example, instead of having 5 midwives, you've got 1. But there's a facility there, and you have around 20 mothers coming to deliver. And there is only 1 midwife assisting these mothers to deliver. You can imagine the toll on her, and sometimes one of the mothers may not, by the time they reach the midwife, the baby is already at a place where it has to come out. So it might result into really
a mortality.
Or she might even deliver because like some of our mothers produced us in the gardens successfully. But she has done it in the compound of a hospital. So that can't have translated into development, where you'll have a mother coming to hospital, has the services, delivers a baby, a normal delivery, within 24 hours she returns home. Now, she has delivered, but more or less like my grandmother who delivered my parent in a banana plantation. So if you are planning, and that's where a thing ago, governor, and others, Ramadan Govi, all of them, the entire should be sitting and say, what do we plan? For example, take about revenue, national revenue. Katesh is the expert on this. Has it increased over years? Of course it has. Don't doubt about that. And doesn't that determine the size of the economy? Of course it does. That's why people, sometimes you see these commentators say, what are they discussing about? The economy has increased, but where are we investing that money? Because that's the most critical. There is wastage. Sometimes bad mannered people pick a little bit of it for their own use.
Not a little bit.
Let me use my words, you have yours. So you get it. Instead of that money being invested properly, you don't. And then you say, okay, what we do? Let us give each peasant down there some money, PDM, yes. You want to create 1 million entrepreneurs. Then you say, for example, I've urged in many meetings, and I'm going to give you one meeting I urged quite recently, that there is no country in the world which develops by us romanticizing with the majority of our people being in primary agriculture. No country, Oscar, not even half a country in the world. We should be working, getting our people out of primary agriculture. No, say, you get a piggery there, you get a simu here, you do blah blah spreading. It doesn't work because it has not worked anywhere in the world. Anywhere in the world. It hasn't. I've asked the biggest economists, give me one country where the majority of its people are in primary agriculture and it has developed. The task we have to do is to get these people, get them in services, get them in industries, because all the countries we are proud of, or we read and yearn and want to go there, that's what they have done.
Grew from production.
Yes, get it out of there. And then you leave, first of all, you need to release land to commercial agriculture. You increase production. Not tie everybody to this 1.5, 2 acres, so you can utilize it like this, like it. It doesn't work. This is peasantry agriculture. Just romanticizing with people, so they are happy a bit because they can live, but it does not transform the country.
Derek, do you have a positive outlook as a?
I'm afraid it is difficult to look at these figures and get excited as a Ugandan, unless you are placed in one of those sectors that are actually having growth, like council. I mean, you in 2021, I think our economists came and led by President Museveni said Uganda had crossed to middle income status, and just a few weeks later, the World Bank came and corrected that narrative and said Uganda hasn't entered because its national income per capita was at $840. Less of what is supposed to be about 1,000 and above. But over the years, over the 3 years, I know that the national income per capita and the GDP per capita has since grown to 1,046 US dollars, which makes us cross to the lower middle income status. And those figures, of course, according to where you see it, have been contested and stuff. The recently released figures by UBOS show that and implicate that for the last I think 1 decade, Uganda's biggest population of 68 to about 72% have remained in subsistence agriculture. I think what Honorable Katuntu is actually talking about here. And again, like he has put it quite clearly, that until this very significant number is shifted from either subsistence farming to commercial farming, which has a bigger impact in economic growth and development, shall we even boast about these figures that are put in our papers? And I don't want to blame economists per se, because economists will pick figures from all sectors of the economy, put them together and get an average, which will always push them to think that we have been growing. But of course, there is certainly no development. What I would actually blame is the leadership of the country, the leadership that does the appropriation, does the budgeting and stuff. Because for me, I feel that there is a very big problem when it comes to prioritization of our funds, even the funds that we borrow from wherever. If there was prioritization, prioritizing the major sectors of the economy, if we are talking about industrialization, if we are prioritizing the industrialization of our economy, if we're prioritizing what we actually call the backbone of Uganda, because we have always boasted about the backbone of Uganda being agriculture, and we are leaving 72 to 68% of Ugandans suffering and harrowing in subsistence farming. If we do not shift our minds to prioritize on what exactly it is that can bring about economic growth, but alongside economic development, then we are going to always doubt these figures every time that they are released in the newspapers. And I know that when the other bodies that look at our economy from a vantage point go and use the same figures, normally they bring out a different result. You asked whether I have any optimism. I am saddened that looking at the number of Ugandans who cannot live on $1 per day, vis-a-vis those that can actually afford even 7 meals or even throw food away, bringing about that very huge income inequality. It is very hard and very bad for very senior economists like the Honorable Katesh. He should actually know, for instance, from his constituency, how many people can afford 3 meals a day, like it's supposed to be. And that is what we will call economic growth and development. But as it is right now, we know that our country is still struggling. Even with the handouts that are coming with the likes of PDM and stuff like that, even with that, there is not very much significant change. Because at the end of the day, even the little money that's given through PDM or the others is still stolen. So we have a very big problem of corruption in this country.
This is just information there for you. One of our listeners, Kahunga Masiko, says, Michael Todaro, if you remember your economics, says, when planning for development, think of the poorest person you have ever met.
Yes.
And you're saying there's still many of them.
There are still many of them, and many of our leaders know about this because they go to the lowest. There are people who cannot even afford a shelter at their homes. And looking at some things like salt as a luxury. That's why when an MP like Honorable Katesh goes there, the first thing they're going to ask him is, have you brought for us some salt? Some of them even looking at sugar, they're like, that's a luxury. How can you have sugar in your house? So if we are not looking at the lowest person, and we are looking at the far end person for us to gauge how our economy has grown, then we are going wrong.
Okay.
If we are looking at the number of vehicles on the road, we should also know that there is someone who cannot even afford a bicycle, not even one. But the biggest, more than 60% of Ugandans cannot even afford a bicycle. Which bicycle right now could be going for about 50,000, but you can't afford it.
50,000.
And we are looking at.
You you have this sort of sit as it is, you don't need any more one vehicle on this road.
You get. So there is a lot that we need
pause
to
there
think
for a
about.
second, Eric. Moses Pierhanga is saying Derek told lies that President Museveni in the last election didn't campaign in every district in Uganda. The truth is that the president had campaign meetings in every district of Uganda, meetings and radio shows, and not rallies like before. It's because it was COVID time. And then Derek should know that you had to come up with a method of campaigning. Not because Museveni was unable to physically campaign in every district. Then I have another general says, okay, Bobi Wine was fit, but he couldn't place a candidate in every position. Then he says, on the issue of push-ups, he was doing it in 2020 during breakdown, as someone pointed out here. And he continues, says, I don't know why Derek keeps getting things wrong. The population in subsistence production is 33%. And not 68%.
Let's look at the figures. They were just released here.
That's what he's releasing.
I want my brother here, Derek, to...
And I should also tell you that Chris Mukiza, the director of... says that the document was published and you can find it online at their website.
Exactly.
The census document.
You know,
Katesh?
the challenge I have with my brother here,
With
Derek, is I think that his mind is fixated that everything is going wrong and nothing, there's no positive. Because if you talk about the population, first of all, I'm glad someone has corrected the subsistence agriculture. We know we can disagree on the strategies that are being employed, but the strategy of government is to make our population increase productivity. Yes, we have a problem of budgeting and prioritization. There is no doubt about it. We have talked about it in Parliament, even in the caucus. We must get our priorities right, and some of us, we feel we've been let down by government repeatedly, year after year, on priorities, getting priorities right. But if you look at the other problems, we should not think that development of a country is a responsibility of government. If you look at countries that have developed, everybody wakes up planning to do something. I know, Oscar, you employ people. If we are to discuss some of the challenges you have to go through with human beings. So the idea of, for example...
But it would be an excuse.
Yes, but...
If you employ people, then have a building in which they can work.
Yes,
government should also invest in the infrastructure that will enable that development.
At the program, you know, PDM might be seen as, throwing away a few things. But the idea is, can we have everybody producing something? And that is the growth we are talking about. If I have examples of people in my constituency who got PDM money, bought manure, put in their banana plantations, and increased banana output from 25 to 80. That is economic growth at the lowest level. But for us, of course, when we are here in Kampala, we look at the big things. Even the services sector that my brother Katuntu is talking about, Honorable, is if you produce iron sheets, roofings, all these factories which have come up, you must have people to consume those products. If the peasants are not earning and they are not productive, you will have industries, you will have services, but people cannot afford them. So I think the bottom line is that the biggest...
Yes. I want to get, because I just need a professional conversation.
Yes.
You see, when you talk about services, when you talk about industries, you are talking about creation of jobs.
Yes.
And once you have creation of jobs, then people have got income. And that income is the one which they use to consume the goods you are talking about.
Yes, but you see...
So what you have to do is to create a market, a sustainable market.
An environment.
Yes, and that sustainable market you can have. And you know, this is not even that sophisticated science. It is economics all over.
Yes,
These are the
honorable.
fellows who are going to have money. Take, for example, sorry, Troy, if but I just want to understand. I could be wrong.
Yes. My point is...
I've got this factory on Entebbe Road,
Yes.
roofing.
Yes.
Somebody has gone there. He's got a job.
Yes.
Once he has a job and an income, he can be able to earn and put up a 30 iron sheet house. So that goods, there is a market, but he has got the income.
So,
and he can also get money to get 10 bags of cement and buy the cement.
So
this is what economics
here
does, in my view.
Here is the numbers. You have more than 5,000 factories in this country, employing around 1.2 million Ugandans.
Only.
Even if you doubled it to say tripled it, 20,000 factories, you will not absorb the people who need jobs in this country. Now, here is my point. Yeah, here is my point. You see, you have people in this country who have acres of land and there is no production taking place. You can be employed in one of these factories or industrial parks. And you know the issues we have with minimum wage and not having minimum wage, earning 300,000. But you have land where you can actually earn 1 million shillings. And this is what we have been telling our people. You have graduated, you have looked for a job in the district, it's not available. There are few industries around, but you have some land. How can you be productive? And this is, for me, the bottom line. This is the conversation we must have. You need,
I think so.
You cannot grow industries without looking at the end game. You are going to produce goods and services without an internal market. And this has been seen. If you increase the per capita income of the people because they are productive, then your industries will multiply and will produce goods, and there will be. It is a cycle.
Yes, we will have to discuss this, but you start off a final message for the first gang of 2025 to our listeners.
First of all, I really want to thank the listeners, but also Capital Radio for continuing to make this a very prime show. Listened world over, because even after the show, at least I get so many messages, even from people in Australia. It has continued to remain a very productive show.
Okay,
so I want to thank our listeners, and I hope that this year will not be too busy to appear me and my brothers who are in politics. Obviously, I wish
closer to the time we shall send you, we shall release you so that
yes,
you
but
do your work.
we will be
Agatha, quick one.
So before we leave the show, I would like us to pay tribute to a fallen journalist.
We did at the beginning, actually.
Yeah, I wasn't here. Yeah. My good friend Risdale, and I really, I'm not that optimistic, but hoping beyond hope that this year becomes better. Ugandans reclaim their power to demand these things we're talking about here, to demand proper enforcement of the law and accountability, and this whole selectiveness, gambanogu, and favoritism goes away, so that we restore law and order in this country. But also, being an electioneering year, I am more worried than I was for the last year, maybe. We have elections in Uganda, in Tanzania this year, in Uganda next year, I think in Rwanda and Kenya the other year. So it's going to be tough for the
Derek,
East African season.
Final message for the first gang.
I wanted to respond just quickly about the listener who said President Museveni moved in all districts. It's not true. I covered elections, and I know where President Museveni moved to and where he didn't.
Well, this was his assistant, Moses Biaranga.
I know all the places.
I know where didn't he move. I think
very many places.
We cannot debate it.
Very
I think
places.
that's what Moses.
That's what he's saying, that he did not.
You tell us that he didn't move in this place.
No, but Moses says he didn't say he didn't. He moved. He said he arranged meetings in many places. But we are out of time, so we can't debate
the last,
I think
my last message.
Your last message.
My last message is that my message for the first gang is that I hope that we're going to have more of such discourse in the public, but on also different platforms. But also, I hope that those that wield power will listen more to the people and their cries.
Thank you. Abdul, close it out.
Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year to all our listeners of the Capitalgang. Thank you, the honorables of today, Abdul Katuntu and Katesh. Agatha Atuhaire, you are trending on X, by the way. I don't know if you are aware, but
Yeah. I am always trending.
Okay.
I am used to that.
Thank you.
I'm used to that.
You're used to that. Thank you, Derek Wandera. Thank you, Capitalgang producers, Patricia, and all the other social media team. We start the 2025 year positively. I am Oscar Semoyamsoke, and I shall see you next week.